Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 136 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I'm one-year illustrious host Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Jetsam. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
It's good to see you, buddy.
Oh, we're making it through, man.
We are making it through. It's been a content-filled week for me, though.
It's been a heavy week, just in general for me. I've just like a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things for work, getting things ready, in-laws leaving, just a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff going on.
It's crazy. You know, life's nuts.
It comes at you fast.
But luckily, there are shows like this.
Yes.
For us to forget about our week, and for others to forget about their week when they listen to it.
You know how they say you need to hit REM? Because that's when your brain starts actually taking apart the actions of the day and kind of putting them together. That's the show for us. There's kind of this like fugue state of just we talk and then we get to the end and we're like, oh, I feel better.
Yes, this is REM. This is 1000% REM. And it should be REM for all of you folks. And if you have never listened to us before, please go back and listen to our back catalog. We have 135 previous episodes of pure gold. Also, you can find us on youtube.com under NerdPod Generations, and we now have a website, nerdpodgen.com. That is nerdpodgen.com. You can go on that website. You can see more about Alan, myself. You can contact us. You can let us know about likes, dislikes, whatever about our show. But also, there are links to all of our shows, all of our personal projects and websites. So please go to the website. Check us out.
King Steve getting it done for all you.
It took freaking a million years, but I finally figured it out. Finally figured it out. All right, so we got a big show, folks. I start every show off with what have you been watching, playing, reading.
Do you want me to tag in since you got kind of like a lily pad situation, or do you want to do your hopping?
I was thinking maybe we start with, because I think my final of the 4 movies I want to bring up might take a little bit.
Okay.
So why don't we start with the trailers and then the one movie that you were going to talk about.
So let's start with trailers because we just need to make a quick stop at the trailer park, and it's prescient given what I'm going to talk about afterwards.
Yes.
Where trailers aren't a big element, but you would think that they would be somehow. So we did want to touch on 2 specific trailers because you still haven't seen the Alien Romulus trailer, have you?
Oh, no, I saw it.
You saw it? Okay. So I wouldn't mind also just just glancing off that because I think it's interesting. It's just back to basics, but you take Alien and you just put the amount of xenomorphs in from Aliens, and it's like, and we have a new Alien movie. It's exactly the same as the first Alien, but now there's a lot of aliens on the ship.
Which I think is a problem, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting. Do you want to start with the good or the bad?
We got to start with Transformers 1.
Oh, boy.
God, it's terrible.
I saw the internet hyped up over this. Or maybe it was just the internal hype that the studio was pumping into the internet bowels. But it seemed like a lot of people were talking about it this week. This looks terrible, man.
This looks really bad.
This looks like new levels of bad. Like, I was shocked that it looked as bad as it does.
Once again, I don't quite understand what they're going for here.
No.
Because it's, like, the thing I've always appreciated about Transformers, going back to the original cartoon, is it wasn't a joke.
No.
Like, they never played it off as a joke. Even when they had the Transformers and G.I. Joe combined.
Yeah.
Still wasn't played as a joke. And this is just goofy.
Well, and that's the key, isn't it, Marvel? Is that if you don't take it seriously, we won't take it seriously. And, damn it, nerds are passionate for a reason. They take this shit seriously. So please and thank you if you would just stop fucking around. No, I saw this, and I was just shocked at every decision that they made. From the fact that the animation looks worse than some Transformers TV shows.
This was like barely better than Beast Wars, and if for those of you who have not watched Beast Wars,
it's bad.
OG computer animation is really bad, and this is just a little better.
This is only a little better. The faces look terrible.
Horrible.
Just terrible. The writing is awful. The writing is awful. Top to bottom, it's bad. Every line, you know exactly what it's going to be and what's going to happen, and you're just like, ugh. That's the overall reaction to every line of dialogue I had in that entire thing is, ugh.
And what we were talking about with the whole Marvel comedy humor thing, it's directed by Josh Cooley, who all of his previous work has been Disney. Mm-hmm. So even though this is not a Disney movie, you could tell he's bringing that sensibility to it.
Yeah.
Which is just...
Well, even Disney takes things more seriously than this. There's some hard moments in Frozen and Moana and Wreck-It Ralph and a bunch of other Disney movies. You're like, damn, son. But, this looks terrible. terrible.
And then the trailer, I was like, is this Taika Waititi? Because they had to play Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones.
Some fun song in the background. And it was like, just, it's classic hype train. And except it reminds me a lot of the Emoji Movie, where you have all these classic hype train moments of like, this is what we're doing, get hype, kids. And instead it has the exact opposite effect, where you're just like, damn, this looks like shit.
Yeah.
This looks awful. But instead of it being the Emoji Movie, which like we all knew was going to be a shit pile, it's a Transformers movie, and it just looks awful.
Yeah.
And like, why are you doing Transformers if you're going to invent an entirely new story? Like, I don't...
Yeah, I don't get that either.
New canon and new everything. Cybertron is completely different. The biology or mechanism, whatever you want to call it, for the biomechanisms of the Transformers are different. You now have to have a special part in order to transform, and you don't scan something, you just transform into a thing. Whereas like Beast Wars, the reason they're animals is because that's what they were able to scan. As they scanned animals, they have animal bodies now. The trucks and vehicles, that the reason they did that was because that was what they scanned. That's always been the canon. And now, no, never mind. That's not the canon. And also, there's this weird children's Cronenberg, my body is transforming and I don't know how to stop it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
It was dumb.
I hate it.
For those of you who don't know, Cybertron is a 100% metal world.
Yeah.
Where is the flora and the fauna coming from in this movie? Like, it's like, why are there trees and bushes and flowers and plants?
Yeah.
Unless they like go to a moon opposite Cybertron and that's where they are. If this is all taking place on Cybertron, that's even more of a slap in the face. Because it's like, that is not what Cybertron is.
Oh, and then we're going to do the classic, the two arch enemies used to be best friends.
Oh, besties, yeah.
I fucking hate it.
And the three lead actors are all Marvel alum. You got Chris Hemsworth as Orion Pax / Optimus Prime, Brian Tyree Henry as D16, aka Megatron, and then Scarlett Johansson as Alita 1. It's like,
yeah.
Okay, so you got Thor, the dude from the Eternals, and Black Widow,
yeah,
voicing the main three characters.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
No, the everything about this looks bad. The writing looks bad. I guess the writing sounds bad would be a better, more apt way to put it. The animation looks terrible. Both sides of the animation. You always have two elements to animation. You have the actual design and you have the animation. Both are bad.
Yep.
The animation is bad. Everything moves in a bad way. Nothing looks realistic or like it has actual weight or effect. And then the design of everything looks like shit to begin with.
Yeah.
So you're just fucked. You're just totally fucked. And I saw this and I was just shocked at how bad it could be.
And like the part that confused me also is when they meet Sentinel Prime, which is voiced by John Hamm, he gives them all what looks like the matrix of leadership, which Optimus and whoever runs the Autobots keeps in their chest.
Yeah.
But they all get it, which gives them the potential to transform. Now, that didn't make...
And they can't transform before that. They have to have this piece added to them before they can transform. Like, all of this is bullshit new canon.
It's insane.
It's like you have, what, over 30 years of canon at this point, and you were like, we're going to make a Transformers movie, but only in the sense that there's going to be characters that are by name and image recognizable, not in terms of tone or in any way that they talk or move or act, none of that. Simply just like Optimus Prime will look enough like Optimus Prime that you'll be like, that's Optimus Prime. Scrap all of the character, all the canon, all the lore, all of the mechanized biology, whatever you want to call it, all the ways that things happen. You know, it just, so why make a Transformers movie then, dude? Like, what's the point of that? Why go through all this trouble and make a Transformers movie if you're just going to bullshit all the canon away anyway? Then just make something that's not Transformers. Make GoBots. This would be funnier as a GoBots movie than as a Transformers movie.
And the part that's the saddest about this is when this comes out, it'll be 2 years off of 40 years since Transformers the movie, the animated one from 1986, came out. And that looks 1,000 times better than this. And it was 40 fucking years ago.
I can't get over how bad everything about the animation is.
Terrible.
I just can't get over it. Like,
well, and like you said, though, it's the story and the writing is real. Because I've seen things with bad animation, but they had a good story and that you kind of give it a pass. But this you're like, I don't like. It's not funny. Like Bumblebee gets laser swords coming out of his
and then
hands.
He accidentally starts cutting people in half,
Yeah,
and terrorizing people.
And it's like, no.
Oh, I have a face helmet now. I hate this.
It's so dumb.
I hate all of this. It just none of it makes any sense, and it looks like the worst kind of writing out there. You know, it looks like Stuart Little 3-level writing.
My hope is that it bombs, and that we don't get another sequel. Because it's like, okay, we all understand the Michael Bay movies were terrible. They kind of.
The first one set the table.
Rebounded a little bit with the last one that came out, The Rise of the Beasts or whatever it was.
That
was okay.
Better.
It was better than all of the previous Michael Bay movies.
But it also reset the entire canon.
Yes.
Like, this is another thing, is that Transformers just keeps resetting their canon.
Yes.
And, like, look at the X-Men and understand that this is not a sustainable model to go after. No. You can't just keep resetting your canon every time you have a new idea or something doesn't work out as much as you thought, or you want to try something different. You have to stick to your plan or not come out with a different movie every 3 years.
Agree. What Transformers needs is to scrap all the movies. No more movies. Reboot, restart as an animated show on Netflix or wherever.
Yeah.
Start at the beginning like we did in the past. Do an animated show, build it up properly, and then roll it into movies.
Do that fun thing that I love that Marvel can do, where you take things that weren't a thing then and you now introduce them. So you look at, like, I'm looking at some of the X-Men TV shows that have come out, not 97 specifically, but some of the older ones, where you have characters and storylines where in the original X-Men 94 that couldn't happen because that character didn't exist. That character wasn't a thing. That, you know, the relationship between Deadpool and Cable wasn't the established relationship that it is now. So, like, when they go through and they make a new version of the X-Men, they can now touch on some of these storylines that weren't even around. So now you can do Transformers and do, like, the Dinobots earlier on in the story, have them be included earlier on as a more prominent role instead of this special thing they have to wait 3 seasons to get to. You know, like, you can do interesting things, and you're not. One of the things that's most disappointing about this to me is that I think an animated Transformers movie is a great idea.
Oh, it needs to be animated.
But this looks terrible. This sounds terrible. The writing is awful. Everything about it is bad. Even the voice acting is so nothing. It's just the most flat voice acting you've ever heard.
Yeah, and this goes back to the whole, you know, just because they're big names doesn't mean they're good voice actors.
No.
And I love Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, pretty much all of them.
Out of the Chris's, checking in on the 10-year Chris project. Of the 4 Chris tubes we have set up, the Pratt is broken and dead.
Done.
Nobody should tap the Pratt anymore.
No.
It's gone.
Done.
Hemsworth, I think, is running a little low.
He's running low.
He's getting a little low. We'll see how Mad Max comes along and if that helps. But, like, right now,
because of the nose, I think he's going to be out.
It's gonna be a little low. Evans has walked away a little bit. He makes a project like once every year.
He did Ghosted and The Gray Man, or not The Gray Man. What's the?
It is The Gray Man. Yeah.
That was yeah. He did those 2 movies and they were not good.
They weren't that good, but he also isn't making like 6 movies a year, which all suck. Chris Pratt. And then you have Chris Pine, who still makes great movies every time he goes out and does anything.
And really, my favorite Chris movie that has come out in the last 5-6 years. Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. And it's like, that's on the top of the pedestal. Good old Chris Pine. And I really hope, because I don't want to see him do this character anymore, I hope they scrap they keep going back and forth on doing the 4th and final Star Trek and the J.J. Abrams universe.
Yeah.
I hope they just scrap it. Like, listen, you were fine as Kirk. Just scrap it. Yeah. Move on to other things. I don't want to see you as Kirk anymore. Make another D&D movie.
I'm perfectly happy with Star Trek Beyond being the end of that whole saga.
Yeah, it's a perfectly
cromulent
especially
ending.
with Chekhov dying in real life.
Yeah,
it's like, dude,
I think it's time to walk away from that. I think it's time to let that lay.
Because why would you recast that character?
I'd be more interested in Quentin Tarantino's maybe Star Trek, maybe not Star Trek, maybe canon, maybe not canon. Whatever that is, if it ever happens, because I haven't heard anything about it since like 2019, so I don't think it's gonna happen.
No.
But like, I'd be more interested in that than another of the, what do they call it, the 09 or the Calvin universe or whatever it is.
Which is
some stupid name for it.
God, you know what? That was a movie kind of like Forrest Gump with me, where I first saw it, I loved it. Mm-hmm. And then the more I watched it, the more I saw the cracks in the armor. And I'm like...
That's so interesting to me, because I also... That Star Trek was one of my first like real experiences with the OG crew. I had watched some of Next Gen and a few things here and there, but that was by and large, because that was 2009. That was one of the first times I sat down and actually watched a Kirk and Spock adventure. And to have, because like I'd seen the movies, I'd seen Wrath of Khan, obviously, and I think I had seen Search for Spock.
Okay.
I might not have even seen Search for Spock. I might have just seen Wrath of Khan.
Okay.
And so I came in, and this is like the next thing that I see, and I'm like, oh, it's all of these takes on that OG feel. So like you see all the references that they're doing, but they turn left instead of right, and I kind of really dug that. And then Into Darkness came out, and it was just like, fuck. Shit.
Fucking RoboCop and a rogue spaceship. What the hell's going on?
Yeah, teleporting across the galaxy.
Like, to me, this is so off topic, but to me, if they want to continue doing movies for Star Trek, I think they need to take the Strange New Worlds crew and either have them do movies or reboot it. Like, I know there's been talk about doing movies starting from when Kirk and Spock first met each other. But that, Strange New Worlds, unfortunately, kind of screwed up that.
I would rather do Strange New Worlds as its own movie series. You know what would even be more fun is you take the cast of Strange New Worlds, and as like a spin-off, you do each of the Star Trek movies, so it's like a pitch of the same plot, and you see what the new writers and actors and what they can do with that same plot. And so like there are some fundamental things that are the same, but there's also some stuff that's different in between, and you can kind of fix things like going back in time to save the whales. You can try and find a new way to do that isn't as, do we want to say ridiculous?
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's one of my watch play reads.
So I did want to mention really quick, anybody who hasn't seen it yet, there's a trailer for the new movie Pool Man. Well, we talk about Chris Pine.
Okay.
Which I think looks really fun and interesting. It's one of those accidental spies. He's just a hippie weed guy who cleans pools in LA.
He pulls off that look so good.
Yeah.
So good.
And then we wanted to talk on Trap. Just real hot.
Which, Josh Hartnett got a bad rap.
He's making a bit of a comeback in his 40s at this point.
Once again, for those who have not seen the show Penny Dreadful, where he plays the Wolfman, he's really good. Like, yeah. I've started to get back onto that. He had his heyday. I think Lucky Number 11 is a very underrated movie with him and Bruce Willis.
That is a good cast, too.
It's a really good cast.
Morgan Freeman's in that, too.
Yeah, it's just had a weird name, and it was kind of out there, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's an M. Night Shyamalan potential comeback.
Yeah, he's been coming back off and on for a little bit now.
But yeah, I liked Split a lot, but then he fucked it up with Glass.
Yeah,
and it's
exactly. He went to the bank, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, Split! Here, let's give you some nerd cred." Yeah, and he was like, "Great." Let me spend this immediately.
Oh, and
you're like, bummer, dude. So like, now you got to prove yourself again. So, like, we'll see. We'll see if this works. I find it interesting that in the trailer it's listed as part of the M. Night Shyamalan universe. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means either. Does that mean that all the movies are somehow connected? Because then I have a lot of questions about that alien invasion that happened that one time.
Well, and then also, why is the lady in the water also the girl in the village?
Yeah.
It's like, come on. Yeah. You can't have it in the same universe, man.
So, like, I end up having questions more than anything else. Bruce Willis is apparently a ghost and unbreakable. Yeah. So, how are you going to figure that out?
That's how you get reincarnated. Yeah. Unbreakable.
Yeah. So, but I think Trap looks really interesting.
It does.
It's basically like, even in the trailer while we were watching, I was like, oh, so he's the murderer. I'm like, there's no, I don't think they even try and play it off like he's not.
No.
The entire time.
They do it for like a hot minute.
At the very beginning. But even at the very beginning when he's asking the guy like, hey, what's going on with all the police? Yeah. And the guy's like, oh, there's a killer here. You're like, oh, he's the killer. Yeah. Like the twist is like he's the killer. But it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's the cerebral element of him trying to figure out how he's going to get out of this trap while also checking on other projects that are going on.
Which would be... It would be refreshing to have the M. Night Shyamalan twist just be known. Yeah. Like, here's the twist. It's not like a typical action movie where it's the hero trapped in there with the daughter. It's the villain who's the father trapped in there with the police. Yeah. How is he going to get out? Is he going to get out? What's going to happen with the daughter? I don't want there to be a stupid twist at the end now. It's like, okay, now this is a unique take on this story. Don't fuck it up.
The twist is the same as from Trick or Treat, where you see Dylan Baker kill the neighborhood kid.
Oh, God.
And he's then explaining to his son, and you're like, oh my God, he's going to kill the son. And then the son starts turning the head into a jack-o'-lantern, and you're like, oh, the son's in on it too.
I would bet $50 that you just nailed exactly what the twist.
The daughter's in on it,
which would make sense that he's got a guy locked up in his basement who's yelling. So the daughter's got to know. Oh, that's it. Yeah. You just nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Now we don't need to see it.
Now we don't need to see it, so we know what's going to happen. The daughter's going
to kill some guy at the last minute and help her dad get out. There's going to be some police officer that's tailing him the entire time. He's going to corner him at the very last minute. And then the daughter's going to come out and be like, don't hurt my daddy. Stab in the gut. Good job, kid. Let's go.
Or, like, what if she's the main killer and he just helps her?
He just kind of helps her. She's the actual killer.
See, that's the shitty thing about M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
It's become so predictable that I'm dead serious. I think that's what it's going to be. I think we just spoiled the movie before anyone has seen the trailer, really.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We're like, go watch this trailer for this movie. Also, here's the twist ending. We think.
You're too smart, Al. You're too smart for M. Night Shyamalan.
I've been told by a lot of people that I should write movies. I just need someone to come along and actually give me the opportunity.
I know.
I swear to the gods, I have a plan to fix Spider-Man. How crazy am I? I have 2 plans to fix Spider-Man. I have one where it's just what I would do if I was given free reign. And I have one where it's like, okay, I have to play in the MCU sandbox. Fine. Let me fucking fix this place for 5 fucking minutes and get it back on track.
Well, that's the thing, is I don't know if you necessarily have to be the screenwriter. You have to be the fixer.
Yeah.
Like, they say, here's the script. Okay, let me fix this.
Let me get my red pen out. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. You should not do this. Get this line out of here.
Yes.
Spider-Man can jump 500 feet in one leap. I'm just saying, if you get stuck on a golf course, it's not that big a deal. Get it the fuck out of here.
Yes.
What the fuck is he driving a car for? Why the fuck is this happening?
And that's a movie we're not going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to your big watch.
So going from the trailer park to Roadhouse 89. I actually sat down. I was going to watch the other one, which I keep on thinking is called The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That's a fully different movie. The Long Kiss Goodnight is what you keep on mentioning. But
The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is still a great movie.
Yeah.
Messed up movie, but great movie.
I finally sat down and watched the original Roadhouse.
Which is, did I not tell you, it is the quintessential 80s action movie cliche.
Everything is cliche.
Everything is cliched.
Well, like, everything is to the nines.
Yes.
The thing is that it gets so far in the weeds at times.
Yes.
The one that I mentioned to Kelly, because like I came into it knowing a few things, right? I'd seen some of the fight scenes. I know that he is the best bouncer in the business, whatever the fuck that means.
He's a cooler, not a bouncer.
It means nothing either way. You know how much it doesn't matter because it doesn't mean anything either way.
Anything.
So I knew like a few things coming in, that some of the stuff was a little hairy, a little weird. Some of the hair was a little hairy too.
Oh my god.
We'll get to that.
Patrick Swayze was just a beautiful man in that movie. It's so tough to take him serious.
If you say so, I'm gonna have to take your word for it.
Well, not the mullet, but just like, you know, the.
See, all I can look at is the mullet.
Mullet is crazy.
Him and Kelly, what's her name? I can't.
Oh, remember. Kelly Lynch.
Yeah, there were so many points where I was just like, you know what would be great right now is if you both took all of the product out of your hair, because not only would you both be able to be taken more seriously, but also the ozone of the earth would thank you, because I think this is like a hairspray level of hairspray situation where you just have can after can after can.
And the messed up part is the Kelly Lynch hair, I still see it.
Oh yeah.
And at Wegmans, and I'm like, that hair has not been a thing for 30 years. No. What are you doing?
No, it's bad. It's bad. Just some weird choices. The Sam Elliott role was interesting to me.
He's my favorite part of the whole movie, Wade Garrett.
That's such a
his intro scene.
That was a lot.
But he breaks his knees, it hurt, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, like, but it was just so interesting having him there because you knew he was fodder.
Yes.
It was fun actually seeing a male character get fridged. That was fun.
Yep.
Like, the fodder's here. He's gonna die. I thought that the townspeople were really interesting. I thought that the bar people were really interesting. I found a lot of elements of it good. Like, I really love the band in this, how
Yeah.
it's just the one band instead of this kind of rotation of bands, which I do like in the new Roadhouse too. I like that too, that's this rotation. But here you have this really good band with this blind singer, and it's really compelling. He's actually
And Jeff
a really good
Healey
actor.
was a legit blues artist who I think he's passed since.
Yeah, but he's really compelling. He's a really good actor.
Yeah, he died at 41, which sucks.
Just all the hair. I can't get
Just
over
so
like
much hair.
even Sam Elliott looks ridiculous with
Yeah.
this giant mop of hair. I love that he ties it back at times and it's still only half tied back. You have fucking Emmett Sunshine Parker who comes in. He's got the big old Arkansas farmer beard.
Yep.
And it's just all of this like the thing that really bugged me. Every time villains show up, they look nothing like villains. Because they all have perms and they have like the curly hair of porn stars from the 70s and they all have mullets and like, you know, I've seen RoboCop, so I've seen, you know, the henchmen that look like they're in their 50s and you're like, I don't know that you should be a henching anymore. But I every time any villain showed up, I was like, these the bad guys?
The only one you can buy is Ben Gazzara, the
Even
main
him,
baddie.
Even him, I was like, this is the villain?
But
This tweed idiot is the villain?
He reminded me of a lot of wild Western, like Western villains.
Yeah.
Like the guy that hires the hired guns.
Yeah.
And he is that. I mean, he's the guy trying to get like the rancher off his land.
Yeah, no,
and-
this is still by all effects a Western.
Oh, absolutely.
In the same way that the new Roadhouse is by all effects a Western, this is also a
Oh,
Western.
absolutely.
You still have the guy coming in from out of town and he's going to do his whole thing.
But did you get what I meant by... Not only are you a little more invested in the guy that runs the auto parts store, which was the...
I disagree. I thought that they were both exactly the same.
You thought they were the same?
I thought the bookstore and Red, I thought that they both fulfilled excellent elements to the plot that were basically the exact same thing. Which
But
is,
see, I thought Red was a little more because Kelly Lynch was his niece.
See, I didn't.
So his love interest was more connected.
I don't see that. That to me goes back to that idea of like, why do you need to be in love with this person to care about what happens to them? You just need to be a decent human being to see that something bad happens. And you want to make sure that that doesn't happen, especially if it happens because of you. You want to do something to try and evade that issue. And so that's one of the things I like about the new Roadhouse is that he's not in any way related to these people. They were just really friendly to him when he first came into town. And so he just doesn't want anything bad to happen to them. And then when something bad happens to them because of him, it pushes him over the edge. And it's like,
I definitely still appreciate the new ending. I like that better. Like,
that
happy
is more
ending's
fitting
fine.
than them
Kissing in a pond.
I was about to
naked.
say, do not have sex in a swamp.
Yeah.
You Shreks. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get out. Why are you having sex in a swamp?
Because it's there.
That's terrible. I can't even begin to tell you why this is a bad idea.
Because it's the 1980s. You have sex in swamps.
Jesus Christ. I can only imagine what happened the next morning.
Oh my God.
Good God. But there are elements of 89 that I like a lot that I wish they had brought in. I thought the whole car thing was really weird at first. I was like, what's going on? He has this really nice car, and then he goes and he gets this beater. And then the escalation of the car just being bashed. I was like, see, now this is great.
Yeah.
And they should have kept this because this is
And
legitimately
they kind
funny.
of started it, but then they went away from it.
They didn't really do anything with that idea. They never really touched it. I like the bar people here more than in the new Roadhouse simply because there seems to be more of a give and take with the characters in Dalton.
Yep.
Where like the new one, you have like the one woman who works behind the bar and the two bouncers and Jessica Williams, and that's like your entire crew. Here you have like an entire restaurant's worth of people coming in and out, and they are more than just like these faces that you see. Like you actually get to kind of not know them on a name by name basis, but you do get to kind of get a feel for each of them, and especially how you go through and you weed out the bad ones. Like I thought that was also a really interesting thing that they didn't do in the new one, where they were like, there are an element here that are detracting from everything that's happening.
And I did like that first scene where he's like firing everybody and they're handing out the severance pay. And like that was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And like I look at the guy that looked like Danny McBride. I'm like, you're gonna fire this guy? Oh, that's not gonna go well for you. And sure enough, but here's the thing. there's some decisions towards the end of the movie that I did not understand. In the middle of the story, we're introduced to the niece/daughter of Brad Wesley. We're not really sure what role she has, but she is hitting on Dalton, and her brother takes her by the arm and pulls her out of the place. And when Dalton goes by their place the next day, she's all beaten up. And I'm like, oh, that's bad. No cowboy would stand for this. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
No, that is never addressed ever again in the entire movie.
Her character was one that when I was younger I loved, but I didn't love in recent times because she was obviously like, we need a pretty woman with massive boobs that we can just show her boobs.
And then there was
and that's what she was.
There was the weird thing with the stripper who wasn't the niece but looked a lot like the niece.
Yeah.
But couldn't have been the niece because there's no way that he would have done that. Brad Wesley, anyway, like he's making out with her, and like it'd be too weird for her to be in any way related to him. But you have this blonde stripper who looks so much like this other character that we do care about, who we never talk about ever again. Weird choices. Having a not insignificant amount of the henchmen murdered off screen.
Yeah.
Including a lot of henchmen that we had been, forced to hate through the narrative of the story. And they're just murdered off screen. You're just like, okay. And then he doesn't kill Brad Wesley. And we're supposed to be like, oh, good job, dude. You just killed like 6 people, but good job finally reining it in with the one guy that you actually does deserve to be killed by you. And just weird choices. That like they weren't bad, but they were just weird. The cops finally show up for the first time in the movie at the very end of the movie, and like we're told during the narrative that Brad Wesley has the police force in his pocket.
Yeah,
right?
he pretty much owns.
But like
very similar to the new movie.
The police never show up in the movie.
Yeah.
Until the very end when they show up after he's been killed. And all the townspeople are like, we didn't see anything. Yeah. And like that's the end of the movie is where we didn't see anything. And everything, the good guys win and the bad guys lose. And I was just like, okay. And then you have the monster truck. We need to talk about the monster truck.
That was insane.
There's just a monster truck throughout a lot of this movie with no purpose. And like for like the first 2/3 of the movie, you're just like, so are these people just like 10-year-olds who think it's really cool to drive around in a monster truck?
Well, you got to remember, I know there are a lot of monster truck rallies nowadays that people go to. Back in the 80s, monster trucks were huge. Monster trucks in wrestling were bigger than, let's say, hockey, baseball. Like, they were Bigfoot of the monster trucks, which this truck looked like. I don't even think... It might have even been Bigfoot. Now that I think about it,
but that's the thing is that you need it to be more iconic if that were the case.
Yeah,
this looks like it's just like a bunch of 10-year-olds. It looks like that scene in Big where he gets an apartment and just fills it with junk. It looks like a bunch of 10-year-olds got a ton of money and they were like, oh, "We can buy a monster truck, dude!" Like Tinker just got a lot of money, and like, but like it just was so ridiculous. And then they finally use it as a monster truck later on to terrorize the town. You're like, okay. That's why there was this monster truck. But for so long, you're just like, why are these doofuses who are sneaking around in a monster truck? Yeah. What is going on with this?
I do want to shout out one of the doofuses, Morgan, who is the bearded bouncer who gets fired in the beginning and then comes back and starts beating him up.
McBride.
That's Terry Funk. He is one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever to have lived. Yeah? And so to like him in the movie, it was awesome. Because I remember when I saw it, I was like, that's fucking Terry Funk.
He does throw a guy through a table at one point.
He does throw a guy through a table.
So it's not a bad movie. I think I still like the new Roadhouse more just because I think that the characterizations are better.
Yes.
And the script is a little bit tighter. There's just like they get rid of some of the bounce and unnecessary like kind of 80s element of the movie.
Well, and that's the thing with and that's the thing with the 89 Roadhouse. I know it's 89. This movie is the 1980s.
Yeah.
Like, it is a movie of its time, of its day, not only just the way, like you were saying, women are treated, the objectifying of women, the insane violence, the stupid one-liners like pain don't hurt and all that shit. Mm-hmm. This movie was an 80s fucking movie. And it's like, when you watch it, you're like, what were the 80s like? Put on Roadhouse. Yeah. Oh.
I need to go back and see, because that was one thing that I hope that they did put in. I don't remember if they did or not.
What?
Was if he had his medical records with him.
He didn't.
I think that would just be like, that's such a cool move.
That was a really cool move.
It's just such a cool move to be like, yeah, I just go around with my medical records. Here's all the shit I've been through. No big.
It's like even that first scene, I do love the little things that they did. Once again, they did, the new movie isn't like a direct remake, but they have where he only drinks coffee when he goes to the bar, and he gets slashed on the exact same spot.
A lot of knife wounds.
Yeah, and it's like I do appreciate the little things they did in the new movie.
He sews himself up in the same way.
Yep.
There's definitely a lot of nods while still being a fully different movie.
Yes.
Like the villain is very different in that movie.
Hugely
and the fact
different.
that the police are an actual force in the new Roadhouse, where they're an actual impactful part of the story. They tweak the story while keeping the essential nature of it. I also just think that I like Jake Gyllenhaal's performance more than Patrick Swayze's. Patrick Swayze's was maybe a little too cool to that point of just like, you can't... this guy is the quintessential blank face action hero, where he has no personality. And that the idea there is that you can put your own personality on this character and be like, oh, he's just like me because he has no personality, and so therefore I see myself in his blank personality. I felt that Jake Gyllenhaal had more of a cowboy feel.
Yeah.
And had more of that, he was cool, but in that way of like, man, he's cool. Not like distant, but like hip.
Jake Gyllenhaal was a real person to where Patrick Swayze was a caricature.
Yeah.
And that's really like Patrick Swayze is Schwarzenegger in all the early 80s movies. And, it's like,
I think that
he's not a real person.
That is really what it comes down to, is quintessentially it really is just the idea that he is the best bouncer in the business, whatever the fuck that means. That is like the entire movie is like that. And it's not bad, but that's how the entire thing is.
It's something I think if you are interested in action movies, especially old action movies, you kind of got to put it on the list with like Die Hard and all that. It's like it's that kind of early. He wasn't a steroided person like Schwarzenegger and Stallone. He was like the transition to Van Damme and all that, to where it's like, all right, he's not just this big muscle-bound guy, but he's still ripped. Yeah. He still has the crazy, beautiful hair, and he rips dudes' throats out. And it's like, okay, so it's like the transition to what now action movies are.
Yeah.
So
it was interesting.
It was something. Yeah. I'm glad you saw it.
I did not expect it to take place in Missouri.
No, I didn't either. Yeah.